Hi, I'm Ryan Pardo, and today I'll be answering interview questions for the graphic artist and 3D designer position. The first question is, what qualities and skills should a good graphic artist and 3D designer have? For me personally, that boils down to three main skills. Number one being the ability to make purposeful and intentional design decisions on any project you work on. Number two is creating an efficient schedule and timeline for yourself. And number three is the ability to receive and re-implement feedback from peers and superiors. So I'm going to break these down individually. Number one, in terms of creating designs that are produced with intention and purpose. I believe that all comes back down to the research you do for those designs. That's always step one in any process that I work on. I'd like to know what I'm designing, who I'm designing for, what is inspiring me, how this design will be used. All of these things on top of a solid fundamental base in terms of your design or 3D skills allows you to push projects past any perceived potential you had on day one. At least for me, that's how it goes. Number two is using your time efficiently. This is very, very important for us as designers, in my opinion, because we often face time and budget constraints that are out of our control. So for me, I like to set a day by day, week by week schedule, depending on the time frame that I'm allotted, which allows me to work through the entire process and allow myself time at the beginning for research and time at the end for feedback, whether it be receiving it, but then also making the edits that I've discussed with my peers, and actually implementing that feedback. And that is a nice seamless transition to number three. Uh, Feedback is very, very important. You have to get fresh eyes on your work because, at least in my experience, looking at your design for too long has forced me to either be content or frustrated with my design. Getting other eyes on it, like I mentioned before, allows projects to get pushed past any perceived potential on day one. Question two is, what companies, creative products, or brands do you most admire and how do they influence your work? Now, for me personally, and you're going to have to take my word for it, I have always been inspired by the UCF athletics department, even prior to working with them for about 2 years. Their integration of this Space U narrative into their athletics department has always inspired me because it's fully based in research. These were space missions and alumni astronauts and such that had absolutely no relation to athletics in any way. And the designers within the department were able to research like crazy and develop and utilize a kit that they created for these specific designs for nearly 10 years now. I think back to 2017, there was a galaxy print helmet stripe. That was one of the first Space U things that the department utilized. And for me, that was earth shattering. That was groundbreaking. Nobody in college football was doing that. 2018 and beyond, there's been full head to toe custom kits every single year. There's a brand new kit, and that's bled over into basketball and the rest of the athletics department. And that's so inspiring for me because I never truly understood how important research can be as a designer. And being able to see how the athletics department has developed and then be a part of it for 2 years has really opened my eyes to pushing projects past any sort of day one potential that I developed in my mind, and really helped me understand the process and the entire pipeline in order to achieve the final goals that UCF has and that I hope to eventually produce. Question three is, walk me through your portfolio. Which pieces are you most proud of and why? And what makes you a good fit for this job? And when it comes to my portfolio, there's two pieces that I am definitely most proud of, and for a very similar reason. Number one is the Artemis basketball presentation that I did, where I created logos, mission patch, jersey designs, and merchandise design for the UCF basketball team. And the second is Swing City, a animated short film that I did based on the history of jazz clubs in New York City. I'm most proud of these pieces because they were self-guided. Yes, they were long-term projects. Both of them actually took me 4 months to create, but they were totally self-guided. Research was self-guided. The entire design process was self-guided. And yes, I relied heavily on peers and superiors to, just lay their eyes on it, give me their feedback. That pushed these two projects to where they eventually arrived at. But both of these were guided by me from start to finish. And that's why I'm most proud of them. Breaking them down individually, the Artemis project, I knew I wanted to start out with the logo. So I remember day one, I started sketching logos and I pumped the brakes. I was like, no, you can't start sketching logos until you research what you're even sketching about. So I took a month. The first month of the 4 was just research on the Artemis program and how UCF is involved in that program. And you can learn all about that on my portfolio. But then I worked through the logos and the mission patch to get to the jerseys. And of course, if you know anything about me, that one of those jerseys was actually made and worn by the men's and women's basketball teams here at the university. One of the proudest moments of my life as an artist. But what makes that even better for me is that it was self-guided. This was a project where the final result, that last potential, that was all determined by me. And I'm proud of the way it turned out. And that still applies to Swing City, the jazz club 3D modeled short film that I created. I had a teacher running that class, but he was very hands off, which for me was great. I was able to have great conversations with him and discuss my process and work through these kinks that I was having design wise. But in terms of the overall look and the layout of the film and the way it was edited and the music and the post production, that was all me. And I'm very proud of the way both of those turned out. That's why they're my 2 favorite pieces in my portfolio.